Did you know that just one punch can affect millions of people at once? That sounds a little crazy because the average boxer throws a few hundred punches per fight and there's nothing supernatural about it. Nevertheless, among all the variety of punches, there are diamonds that, for whatever reason, stand out from the masses and settle forever in the minds of the audience. It is about such unique examples that we will talk.
The main event of the evening, in association with K2 Promotions and live on Sky Sports Boxing, and exclusively to the United States on DAZN.
Good left hand, and the other goes Williams. He's right in. Down he goes. I don't think he'll get up again. Extraordinary.
Friends, today's video will be dedicated to 25 knockouts that shocked the world. Please don't forget about the likes, comments with forwards, and subscribe to the channel so you will never miss any upcoming videos. Here we go. #25. David Lemieux, Curtis Stevens, left hook. For several years now, any competition in the entire middleweight division has been destroyed in its infancy, and one person has been doing it: Gennady Golovkin. An absolutely unique natural phenomenon no one could resist, including David Lemieux and Curtis Stevens. Both boxers unsuccessfully stormed the title of Gennady, were knocked out, and in 2017, fate brought them together in the ring. Two low but very powerful middleweights made a festival of beautiful boxing. David acted in a variety of ways, especially good body punches, while Stevens played juggernaut and tried to crush. But a third round, a clear leader in Lemieux had emerged, and Curtis was backing off until he tried to catch the Canadian with a left hook. Unfortunately for him, David did the same thing. Lemieux got what he was looking for on a perfect right-hand shot. Both hooks hit the target, but only the granite jaw of Lemieux could resist. Lightning quick and a beautiful end in its own way. 24. Zolani Tete, Paul Butler, left uppercut. If you don't know who Zolani Tete is yet, now is the time to get to know this African guy. Despite competing in the bantamweight and super flyweight divisions, Tete is famous for his ability to knock out at the most unexpected moment, such as his record for the fastest finish in history, 11 seconds. In 2015, Zolani's dance partner in the ring was the consummate champion Paul Butler. Zolani won the early rounds with his speed and tactics, but tangibly missed some nasty punches in the middle of the encounter. Paul felt like he was building up his head, but Tete quickly clipped his wings. Now leading in the fight himself, gradually the African was getting a taste for it, and by the 8th round had a knockout prepared.
Third consecutive fight overseas. Tete, what a great job, and that is it. Is he going to get up? It looks as though it's all over. Great left hand, Butler doesn't really know where it is.
Zolani forced his opponent to react to the jab and then sent his soul into the other world with his left uppercut. Yes, you won't find another guy with a punch like that in these weight classes anymore. 23. Sergio Martinez, Paul Williams 2, left overhand. The story of Sergio Martinez is a bit like that of Bernard Hopkins. The Argentine first came to the boxing class when he was already 20, but he reached a high level at 32. That's the age when most people are at their peak, but Sergio is just coming out of prelims. Everybody used to give up on the guy, especially after his loss to young Paul Williams, the welterweight hope. But despite all doubts, the Argentinian was moving towards his goal and very soon won 2 belts and was rewarded with a rematch with Williams. The first encounter between the welterweights was closer than you'd think, but even taking into account his experience against Paul, no one gave Martinez much of a chance to retain the belt. From the early seconds, Maravilla came in with punches across the body, adding a left hook at the end of the combination. That punch was the decisive one. In the second round, Sergio delivered an impulsive overhand right at his limit.
Good left hand, and down goes Williams. Right hand, Williams through the left, Williams down. Not getting up.
Williams just wasn't expecting that the 34-year-old Argentine could hit with such a murderous speed, so he ate the punch and got knocked out for the first time in his career. Just more proof that youth and talent don't always matter in boxing. 22. Usyk, Bellew, left cross. By the end of the World Series of Boxing, Alexander Usyk unified all cruiserweight belts for the first time in 12 years and became the undisputed champion. The last hotbed of resistance that Usyk wanted to crush before moving up to heavyweight was veteran Tony Bellew. The Brit was in the best shape of his career, and even before the fight with the champ, he knew that it was his last fight. That's why Tony was going to give his all. The untouchable Usyk looked weak against Tony. The bomber was quick to counterattack and moved even faster than the champion himself, who always bet on his legs. Usyk felt that he was losing rounds, so he added up, and by the middle of the fight, he took the initiative. Moreover, because of the abnormally high tempo, Bellew himself sagged. In the 8th round, the Brit was just waiting for the bell, not being afraid of strikes of the champion. But Alexander, who has never been considered a puncher, cracked the system and shut the brain of his opponent with a flawless left punch.
Left hand back behind him and score. And then he nailed him right in the middle. Down he goes with the left hand. The momentum. We saw Usyk building up, and it's over just like that.
21. George Foreman knocked out Mora. Only one man in the world has made all the heavyweights tremble in fear for 3 different decades. We're talking about the legendary Foreman, whose talent was with him his entire life, even at 45 when he got his last title shot. Everybody knew that old man only had 2 to 3 fights left before the end of his career, so it was decided to honor him by matching up against a very strong Muhammad Ali, Sonny Liston, right hook.
Wanna go now? I'll whoop you now. It's gonna take a good man to whoop me. You can look at me, I'm loaded with confidence. I can't be beat. I done had 180 amateur fights, 22 professional fights, and I'm pretty as a girl.
Before being called the greatest, Ali was the most common upstart. At least that's what most people in the boxing world thought he was. At the time, the heavyweight champion was the fearsome, intimidating by the name alone, Sonny Liston, who could knock out his opponents with a stare, but even that clump could not handle the fluttering Muhammad. Then, to see if there was a glitch in the matrix, the promoters brought the 2 big guys together again. As in the first fight, Muhammad was too fast for Sonny. Tormenting camp did nothing for the former champion, and he was again chasing the tall boy all over the ring, collecting punches with his face. But if last time it took several rounds, now Ali only needed 1. Moving to the side of Liston, the greatest flicked a quick and precise hook to Sonny's face. 4. Countdown. That's it. We have a new king. 19. Mike Tyson, Michael Spinx, right hook. Hey, you guys didn't think there wouldn't be a spot in the top for our beloved Tyson, did you? In the ring, Mike managed to distinguish himself with many memorable punches, but one of his most important performances came against undefeated champion Michael Spinx, who managed to outshoot Larry Holmes twice. For the Iron Mike, who was going through a bad time in his life, this fight was the toughest of his career. Tyson split Spinx into atoms. Mike was betting on hooks, but the first knockdown was given to him by an uppercut, after which Spinx got up.
Heavy landing yet, but he's taking them. The uppercut, body shot, down goes Mike Spinx for the first time.
Tyson decided not to take any time for a breather and immediately flew into Michael with a short but merciless right hook, from which Spinx no longer recovered.
Here comes Mike Spinx in. He leads to the right hand. Down he goes. I don't think he'll get up from this. Mike Spinx is laying flat on his back.
And who can say after that, Tyson only hit sacks? Huh?
That angle shows you exactly what it was. The man couldn't...
18. Ernie Shavers, Larry Holmes, right hook. In the early golden era of boxing, it was not hard to get lost among such monsters as Ali, Frazier and Foreman. So it is not surprising that today no one remembers Ernie Shavers, a knockout artist whose power was considered equal to or even superior to Big George himself. He met many men on his way whose names are on the memorial obelisk nowadays. But the most famous fighter was Larry Holmes, with whom Shavers even had his own history. The second fight is exactly what interests us. Knowing the dynamite stored in his fists, Ernie didn't worry about technique and often just swung his arms hoping to hit. At the same time, the Eastern Assassin was known for his ingenious sense of distance and defense, so for him, an opponent with this kind of fighting style should have been an easy walk. But no way. Within a second, Ernie had accelerated enough to confuse Holmes himself and caught him with his right hook. The punch looked like a nail in the coffin lid, but Larry was able to get up and eventually even won the fight. But Shavers had his own eternal moment of glory. 17. Alexander Petkin, Dillian Whyte, left uppercut. It's always painful for sentimental fans to watch a generational change, but it's nothing more than the natural order of things. In 2020, the promoters arranged another heavyweight generation transition. The role of the handover was played by the Olympic champion, the aged Alexander Petkin, and his opponent, the young Dillian Whyte. On paper, the Russian Knight's minutes in the ring were numbered. Basically, the villain lived up to the expectations, beating the veteran for the first 3 rounds without too much respect.
Waiting quite a while. Just let 2 rounds. Beautiful shot.
And in the 4th round, he managed to send him to the floor twice.
Through his career. Oh, but a beautiful countering shot from Dillian for the second time. Didn't see.
Surprisingly, even after that, Petkin did not give up and was able to hold out until the next round, where the vendetta took place. Alexander brilliantly failed the Brit with his dive in and, like a thunder god, launched a bomb in the form of an uppercut at him. Whyte, who had almost won the fight, was completely knocked out. What a wild comeback! 16. Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, right cross. This isn't the first upset in today's compilation, but it's definitely one of the biggest. The second fight between Tyson and Holyfield may have been the most high-profile fight ever, while the first one is often just mentioned. But we can't just forget how Evander changed the entire game overnight by showing how to deal with the Iron Mike. The undisputed cruiserweight champion was in great shape and cleverly manipulated the distance throughout the fight. Long, medium, clinch, and so on round and round. This exhausting cycle left the former champion's hands strained, and Holyfield took advantage of it immediately.
He's going for it. Oh, Tyson's in trouble. Holyfield smothers Tyson. Looking to put Tyson down and end the fight. Tyson is not in trouble. He's saved by the bell.
He built up his momentum, hit more and more, and in the 10th round, with a few seconds to go, he moved away from Tyson's straight hand and hit him. The ideal punch flew right into the face and Mike started wobbling just like all his opponents had been. The knockout came to Evander at the beginning of the next round, but this unbelievable straight punch was the harbinger of the end. 15. Danny Garcia, Amir Khan, left hook. If we have Foreman for the knockout master characteristic, Mayweather for the technical one, the leader of unfulfilled talents is Amir Khan. The Olympic silver medalist was Britain's second hope after Ricky Hatton, and for a long time Khan lived up to expectations, but all his life he had trouble withstanding punches, and the undefeated Danny Garcia was the one who took full advantage of the gap. Danny was able to read Amir's intricate style right after the bell rang and dominated all the early moments. The main role in the American success was played by the swinging hooks that Amir fell for again and again.
From Garcia. Oh, he's got that! Left hook gets Khan!
In the third round, one of these blows shook Khan and he survived, but not for long.
What a round! And he's got him again. It was just a glancing shot, but the resistance is gone.
Early in the fourth round, a left hook which just touched his head tangentially was enough to drop and, as it turned out, to bury the entire career of the talented Amir. 14. Jamal Charlo, Julian Williams, right uppercut. Jamal Charlo is the undisputed super welterweight champion today, and we have no doubt about his skills, but in 2016 the kid was still young and just showing promise. Jamal won the IBF welterweight title and was challenged by another undefeated prospect, Julian Williams. The winner of the fight had to move on, and the loser was written off as just another overhyped kid. Before the fight, the future of boxing was a slight favorite, but Williams, as a lover of smart fights, was given many chances to succeed.
On the inside. And the trouble he has here. Oh, and that jab sent Williams to the canvas. He's got to get up slow.
Already in the second round, Julian was caught by a punch, but got up and fought the champ well, even stealing the initiative. Then Charlo realized that he couldn't win without damage and went all in.
In fact, we heard Shield sound.
Jamal missed a 1-2 but responded with a huge uppercut. Williams' legs started to dance as if he'd really been hit with a sledgehammer. Even though it was only a knockdown, Charlo was quickly able to finish what he started, and the guy himself became permanently associated with that uppercut. 13. Evander Holyfield, Buster Douglas, right cross. In the late 80s, all the big promoters had sweet dreams of bringing together the champions of two different weight classes, Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. The fight was even organized, but Holyfield could not fight that night and was replaced by some Buster Douglas, who later made that greatest upset in history, giving the Iron Mike the first defeat of his career. A rematch between the two never happened. Then the promoters didn't hesitate and offered Holyfield a fight for all the heavyweight belts. Of course, he did not mind. According to the analysts' quotations, Holyfield was the favorite, but Douglas also had chances. If he could knock out Tyson himself, he would do something against Evander. It turned out that those were just dreams. Douglas was simply not ready for such a fast and technical opponent. Holyfield was shooting at him from every kind of distance, and in the third round the moment came and the champion went away from an uppercut, returning it all in an astronomical fast right hook, which at once rewrote the whole history of the royal weight class.
That time by holding Holyfield. Right hand stuns Douglas.
Caught him going in. He is not going to get up. There goes the heavyweight championship of the world.
Bill's lane with the count.
Holyfield has been named the heavyweight championship of the world.
12. Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, left hook. There are special kind of fights, the one that can be written in the history books, and the fight of the century, which had such a name before it even took place, just cannot help but belong to them. When Ali returned from his forced retirement, everyone thought he would take the belt in the next couple of months. It would have been exactly that if it hadn't been for Joe Frazier, an old friend who was the champion at the time and got in Muhammad's way. No one could have predicted that Joe Frazier's style would turn out to be so uncomfortable for the greatest. Smoking Joe pressed Ali with all his might, preventing him from working with 1-2s and legs, and without his footwork, Muhammad was practically unthreatening. The former champion still had some successful moments, but the game finally changed at the very end of the match when Joe avenged his opponent for all his words by putting his fury into his brilliant left hook.
Time is important here.
At this point, the boxing world fell apart. 11. Roy Jones, James Toney, left hook.
To beat because people have been for the longest time labeling him as my greatest opposition. I know I can beat him because I know I'm the best in this business. Therefore, I think the fight will elevate to be one of the greatest fights of all time.
In 1994, nobody even thought of calling Roy Jones the new boxing icon. The guy was just gaining momentum and had only 26 fights, but now a real test loomed on the horizon in the face of James Toney. Lights Out defended his IBF super middleweight belt 3 times, and his record was 44 wins to 0 losses. Toney didn't look like himself, sluggishly moving around the ring and missing shots, but even so, in the 3rd round he decided to parody Jones himself and ostentatiously put his open jaw forward.
When he got pinned there with some beautiful shots back at Toney. Oh! Big left hook!
Jackson Harold Graham, right hook. The intimidating middleweight puncher. Who is it? Golovkin, Benavidez, Alvarez? No, Julian Jackson. And don't rush to laugh if you don't know him. The former champion in 2 different weight classes has been ranked number 25 on the list of the greatest punchers of all time. You don't even want to stand in the elevator with this guy, let alone in the ring. But Harold Graham was not a frightened man. He was ready to fight for the WBC belt even with this devil. Jackson gave a perfect performance. He didn't engage in meaningless brawls, but rather aimed. Graham couldn't come up with a decent plan to expose his opponent's cards, and meanwhile Julian was luring his opponent into a trap. He was throwing good punches, but when Harold came close, Jackson landed a hook, which would later be acknowledged as one of the best in the history of boxing. Why?
Using every inch. Oh, what a punch! I can't believe that. Never been stopped in his career.
Graham's unfortunate body took all the power of this wild beast and sank as if it had never had any muscles at all. Harold literally fell dead and only opened his eyes when the back of his head hit the canvas, and then he was unconscious for another 5 minutes. That's what a knockout master does to people. 8. Canelo Alvarez, Sergey Kovalev, right hook. Becoming the champion in 2 different weight classes is very prestigious, and with each new weight class won, the prestige of being the champion will only grow. Canelo Alvarez was well aware of that, and in 2019 moved up to light heavyweight in order to compete for the championship belt against Sergey Kovalev, a veteran from Russia who was still performing at a high level at the age of 36. When the level of the boxers is close, it's all about micro things like speed or reaction, which we saw in this fight. In the last couple of years, Sergey had declined a lot and Canelo was just better. He outplayed the Russian, he was beating him 10 times more powerfully, leaving no chance to win by decision. In fact, it wasn't necessary.
Kovalev not even committing to it. Here it is. Kovalev's hurt. Kovalev's down.
In the 11th round, Kovalev was at the ropes and then Soul shook him with a sharp left hook. The wobbly veteran was an easy target and the Mexican sent him to retirement with a brilliant hook, taking his belt already in the 4th weight. 7. Oscar De La Hoya, Fernando Vargas, left hook. By 2002, for some reason, everyone thought that the age of the golden boy had come to an end. Yes, Oscar had suffered 2 tough defeats, but he was still a boxer of near divine caliber, which was questioned by a young newcomer named Fernando Vargas. The burly 24-year-old was going with excellent stats, and he was going to make a name for himself on the old, in his opinion, De La Hoya. In fact, Vargas was already very good in those years, but he also clearly underestimated Oscar. After getting his nose broken in the first round, gradually De La Hoya was taking the lead, but Fernando tried to push. The fight was very intense, but towards the end of the fight, Oscar took the lead, and in the 11th round, he combined shots to the body and head.
Blood flowing from De La Hoya's nose, again the blood flowing from Vargas.
A left hook to the jaw taught Vargas some dancing, and it was a miracle he was able to stay on his feet before he went down in the next round.
I think Vargas
Just one punch put the faith of the fans back in Oscar De La Hoya. 6. Bernard Hopkins, Felix Trinidad, right hook. If any boxing fan in 2001 was asked what the worst thing in the world was, he would have said a fight with Felix Trinidad, without a second's hesitation. The best boxer of the early 2000s, the man who defeated 20 opponents for the title of champion and never once stumbled, or that is Tito. And who came up against him? Some Bernard Hopkins, who, truth be told, hasn't lost in 8 years. But who cared? Everyone was sure that the world was going to get another knockout from Trinidad. But how interesting it all turned out in the end. The executioner made the scariest man on the planet look like a high school freak. Bernard naturally taunted Felix, failing him and punishing him with a good dozen punches, which was especially noticeable in the second half of the fight. Tired of the high tempo, Trinidad was just waiting for the end, but his face suddenly found a damn right hook that opened up a previously unfamiliar place for him, the floor of the ring. Hopkins impressed all mankind with his performance and especially with that furious hook. 5. Floyd Mayweather, Ricky Hatton, left hook. The main reason Floyd has always been criticized by the mainstream audience is his pillow hands, incapable of knockouts. Mayweather never paid attention to that because his style was effective and that's much more important. But whenever possible, the money still looked for a knockout chance and perhaps his best finish came against a major British boxer, the undefeated Ricky Hatton. Mayweather made the hope of the foggy Albion look like a clown, incapable of high-level boxing. The champion outclassed his opponent and smashed his face. The only rounds that were close were the ones where Floyd deliberately took a break to beat his opponent even harder. By the 10th round, the score sheet was already crushing and Mayweather was getting ready to finish. The moment Hatton rushed at him with an attack, Floyd pivoted to his left, charging with a single hook to the hanging jaw of the Brit.
Boxing by Mayweather, Hatton sticking to his task but gets through. Left hook drops him, and then he hit his head off the turnbuckle.
The king of technique made a real sensation, showing everyone that's such high-level boxing. 4. Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, right punch. Every couple of decades, there is a guy in the heavyweight division who intimidates everyone with his punching power so much that he is immediately referred to as the most frightening puncher in history. In our era, the pedestal of the main distributor of dementia among heavyweights is taken by Deontay Wilder, whose power could be talked about forever. On the other hand, today's heavyweight is occupied by Tyson Fury, and who else but the Gypsy King had to personally verify the truth of legends about Deontay's power. Everyone knew that the Bronze Bomber only needed to touch his opponent with his glove. That's why his early knockdown did not cause any shock. The dropped Fury, however, came back and rebounded nicely. Almost all the rest of the time he dominated, and by the 12th round no one was expecting a miracle from the panting Wilder, but he rewrote the history, destroying Tyson with a single right hand. Deontay proved he was a threat every second of the fight, and with one punch he tied the world's best heavyweight. 3. Manuel Marquez, Manny Pacquiao 4, right hook. The greatest opponent in the career of the great Manny Pacquiao was Juan Manuel Marquez. Two boxers with outstanding talents went side by side for 8 long years. The first time they crossed the gloves in 2004, and Pac-Man became the winner by split decision. In the rematch, Manny again won by split decision and then by majority decision. Every time Marquez was a half step short for the victory, but he did not give up and made his last attempt to beat the Filipino in 2012. Every time he fought Lennox Lewis, a right hook.
I'm 100% woman's man, so don't even play that. If you're worried about that, bring your sister, bring anyone.
No, hold. I'm tell you right now, if you don't want me saying nothing about your mother, your father, or anybody else in your family, do not say nothing about my family.
Be careful what you say.
Do not say nothing about my family.
Be careful what you say to me.
Do not say nothing. Man, you ain't nobody. I say what I want to say to you.
Go ahead, man.
I say what I want to say to you. What you mean? I just said it. What you want me to say? What you want me to say?
Same thing.
Like what? Like what? Like what?
Anything.
What you want me to say?
By 2001, all the contenders who could at least in theory fight Lennox Lewis had been brutally beaten by him, so they chose Hasim Rahman as the next light dinner for the champion. Rahman was only known for his punching power. Rahman went into the fight almost as much of an underdog as Buster Douglas was in his time, but Lennox ruined himself before the fight. He was totally out of focus, and in the first 3 rounds he missed badly in the head. But in the 4th, he hesitated and let Rahman gather his strength for the hardest blow, a right straight hand.
Oh, he's got him! He's got him! He got careless and he's got him!
The champion's jaw drowned, and he fell like a huge rock to the canvas in honor of the new heavyweight king. With one right straight hand, Hasim was able to make one of the greatest upsets in history. 1. Anthony Joshua, Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko is one of the most underrated champions of all time in boxing. He held the throne for many years and beat every top that was at his peak at the time. But a boxer's age is short, and for Klitschko's career it came to an end in 2017 when he signed a contract to fight Britain's young beast, Anthony Joshua, specifically bred to take on the elderly Ukrainian. If Klitschko looked sluggish in the fight with Fury, here he looked blatantly bad. Joshua was outworking him in the volume of action, and Vladimir had little to offer in return. After the equator, the Brit briefly took a pause, giving the old man a chance to enjoy his ego, but that was the end of Klitschko's luck. In the 11th round, Joshua charged in with an uppercut that nearly broke the Ukrainian's neck. The invisible punch, endowed with a hell of a lot of destructive power, made the whole arena howl with delight, and for Vladimir, it meant nothing but a quick KO. Did you enjoy the video? Then make sure you like it and subscribe to the channel. And what knockouts which shocked the whole world do you remember? Be sure to share your opinion in the comments.